All right, let's jump into some fascinating research today.
Okay, sounds good.
We're going to be looking at this paper, and it's a really interesting one.
Uh-oh, what is it?
It's called, get this, Social Role versus Structural Models of Gender Influence Use in Organizations.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
It is.
What is that all about?
It's by Herman and Guinness,
Yeah.
like Guinness, the beer,
Okay.
and Susan Adams.
All right.
And it really kind of challenges some of the assumptions about women in leadership.
Oh, really? In what way?
Well, we all know about the glass ceiling.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
It's still a problem, despite, there being more and more women in management roles. They're still not making it to the very top as often as men.
Right, exactly. And so this paper looks at whether it's just about women being in leadership positions or if it's about the way they lead.
Interesting. So is there a difference in how women lead versus men?
Well, that's what they're trying to figure out. So
Yeah.
they're putting these two competing theories head to head, the social role model
Okay.
and the structural model.
All right. I'm intrigued. Break those down for me.
Okay, so the social role model basically says that, women are kind of expected to be more nurturing and collaborative.
Yeah.
So they kind of tend to favor these softer influence tactics.
Okay, so like more let's work together and less do what I say.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the concern is that these softer tactics are maybe perceived as less powerful.
Uh-huh. I see where this is going.
Right.
And that ultimately holds women back.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
interesting.
then you've got the structural model,
All right, tell me about that one.
which takes a totally different angle. This one
Yeah.
focuses more on the organization itself,
Yeah.
the structure of the organization.
Gotcha.
And it suggests that women often end up in positions that just don't have a lot of built-in authority.
So they just don't have the same level of power to wield, basically.
Right. So they end up using less effective tactics regardless of their gender.
So it's not about being a woman, but more about where you are in the whole structure of the organization.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fascinating.
It's not about being a woman. It's about the position. So let's say you're a female manager.
Okay.
You're trying to get your team on board with a new project.
All right.
Do you, lay down the law, or do you try to, build a consensus?
Right. What approach do you take?
Right. And that's what this research really explores. To test these theories, they showed participants videos of male or female managers, and they were using either direct, meaning assertive, or indirect, which is more collaborative tactics to influence their subordinates.
Oh, wow. So like a classic psychology experiment.
Totally.
Did they have people in lab coats and...
Well, not quite lab coats.
Okay.
But they did have actors playing the managers.
Okay.
And they had these very specific scripts.
Oh, wow.
They really made sure that the only difference was the influence style being used.
So they controlled for everything else.
Exactly.
And they had participants watch and rate them.
Yeah. So the participants then rated these managers on all sorts of factors.
No, like what?
Like how effective they were, their leadership qualities, all sorts of things.
Ooh, really cool.
Yeah. They were very detail-oriented in this experiment.
Well, with all that planning, there has to have been some interesting results, right?
Oh, yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting. The study actually found more support for the structural model.
Oh, so it wasn't about being a woman, but more about how the type of influence that they used.
Exactly. Direct, assertive tactics were seen as more powerful and effective, regardless of whether the manager was male or female.
So it's not just about women being nice to get ahead, really.
Right. It throws a wrench in that whole stereotype.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. A woman who's direct and assertive is actually seen as a more effective leader
Wow.
based on this study.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And there's another thing, too. Female managers, using those direct tactics, they were actually seen as having more referent power than their male counterparts.
Referent power.
Yeah, so that's like people want to follow you because they respect and admire you.
Oh, okay, I see.
So not just about getting the task done.
It's about inspiring others to follow.
Exactly. So maybe defying these stereotypical expectations actually makes a female leader even more influential.
It makes you think. It really challenges our assumptions about gender and leadership.
It really does. It gives me a lot to think about, even in my own workplace.
Yeah, me too. It really makes you wonder if women are kind of walking this tightrope, you know?
Yeah, like they're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Yeah.
If they're assertive, they're effective, but maybe not so likable.
Right.
And if they're collaborative, then maybe they're likable, but not seen as competent.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. And you know what? This study actually found evidence for that. They looked at 6 specific traits.
Okay, let me guess. Like confidence leadership.
Exactly. Self-confidence, emotional stability, how industrious they were perceived to be, leadership, logic, and responsibility.
Okay, so like all those good leadership qualities.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when female managers used that direct influence, they were rated lower on these traits than the male managers.
Oh, wow. Even though they were seen as more effective overall.
It seems that way, yeah. It's like by breaking out of those expected gender roles, they almost get penalized in other ways.
Wait, so it's like, wait, hold on. They're getting things done. They're seen as powerful, but they're being like dinged on these, I don't know, more personality-based qualities.
Yeah, it really highlights the complexity of this whole issue. There's no easy answer.
So what's the solution? How do women break through this double standard?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This study doesn't offer any easy answers, but I think it does highlight the importance of awareness.
Okay.
Like, organizations need to be conscious of these biases and create environments where women can lead authentically.
So it's not just about women like adapting to the existing power structure.
Mm.
It's about changing the structure itself.
I think that's a crucial part of it, yeah. We have to question those deep-seated assumptions about what good leadership looks like that old command and control model. I think that's becoming more and more outdated. Today's workplace, I think, demands a more nuanced approach.
Right, because it's not just about giving orders anymore. It's about inspiring, motivating, collaborating,
Yeah.
all those things.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Effective leadership can look very different depending on the the context, the team dynamics, all sorts of factors.
Okay, so we've talked about like power dynamics, leadership qualities,
Yeah.
but what about results? I mean, did these different influence styles actually lead to different outcomes?
Right, like who's actually getting the job done?
Yeah.
That's another key aspect of the study. They looked at three specific influence outcomes: commitment, compliance, and resistance.
Okay, walk me through those. Commitment, I'm guessing that's like the holy grail.
You got it. Commitment means the subordinate is fully on board, like they believe in the task and are enthusiastic about it. Then there's compliance, which is more about like just following orders, even if they don't necessarily agree.
Gotcha.
And then resistance, well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. So which style got the best results?
Well, this might not be surprising, but that direct influence style, that actually led to less resistance and more compliance from the subordinates.
Oh, interesting. Regardless of the gender.
Regardless of the manager's gender, yeah.
So even though those women using direct influence got dinged on those personality traits, they were still more effective in getting things done.
Yeah, that's that interesting paradox this research kind of reveals. It really underscores that structural model, right? Like if you're a manager in a position where direct influence is expected, they're likely to be more successful. And, that success might come at the cost of like being perceived as, I don't know, less likable or less relatable.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway from all of this?
What I find most striking is how deeply ingrained these gendered perceptions of leadership are.
Yeah.
Even when women use tactics that are objectively effective, they can still face this backlash. It really highlights the need for like ongoing dialogue and awareness.
And for a shift in those expectations,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It can't just be on women to adapt.
Mm.
The system itself needs to change.
Absolutely. We need to recognize that effective leadership can come in many forms, right?
Yeah.
And, we need to create spaces where women can lead authentically without, facing these double binds.
Well said. It's clear there's still a long way to go on this journey towards gender equality in the workplace, but research like this is really helping us understand the complexities and challenge those outdated assumptions.
For sure. And hopefully it'll inspire more women to step up and lead, knowing that they don't have to conform to these narrow expectations to be successful.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here, but I'm sure our listeners are wondering, like, what does this all mean for me?
Right, right.
How can I apply these insights to my own career and navigate these tricky dynamics?
That is the question, isn't it? A great question. It is a really good question. How can we apply this, to our own careers?
Yeah. How can we take this research and actually make it work for us in the real world?
Well, I think a good first step is just awareness.
Okay.
Just being aware that these biases exist can help us navigate them better.
So it's like they say, knowledge is power.
Exactly. Once you understand what's really going on, you can make smarter choices about your own leadership style.
So for our listeners out there who might be feeling a little discouraged by all this, what's your advice? Yeah, how do you find that sweet spot between being assertive and being authentic?
Yeah, that's where self-awareness comes in, I think.
Okay.
Really understanding your own strengths and tendencies, like are you naturally more direct or are you more collaborative? What kind of environment lets you do your best work?
So it's kind of like playing to your strengths, but also recognizing that you might need to adapt a little bit depending on the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also really important to find allies and mentors,
Well,
people
yeah,
who can support you and give you guidance.
having a strong network can make all the difference.
Oh, absolutely, especially when you're dealing with these tricky situations.
For sure. And, you know, this research focused on women, but these dynamics really, they can impact anyone who doesn't fit that traditional leadership mold.
Oh, definitely. It's not just a women's issue. This is something we all need to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So before we wrap up, is there anything else from the study that we should highlight? Any like caveats or limitations we should keep in mind?
Well, one thing to note is this study was looking at a specific type of management role, one where direct influence is expected. So, the findings might not apply in every situation.
Right. So maybe in a more collaborative environment, those softer tactics would actually be more effective.
Exactly. It all depends on the context. And it's important to remember, too, that they used videos in this experiment, which is
Right.
not always going to perfectly capture, real life
Yeah.
interactions.
Okay, so we can't just take these findings and apply them blindly to every situation.
No, it's about understanding the principles and then adapting them to your own specific circumstances.
Great advice. So if our listeners could walk away with just one key takeaway from this whole deep dive, what would it be?
I think the most important thing is don't be afraid to challenge those old ideas about what it means to be a leader, whether you're a woman or a man. Find your own authentic style and lead with confidence.
And remember, the system needs to change too. We all have a responsibility to push for more inclusive and equitable workplaces.
Couldn't agree more. It's a journey, not a destination, but every step we take gets us closer to a future where leadership is about talent and vision, not about gender.
Well said. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure, and to all our listeners out there, keep leading, keep learning, and keep challenging the status quo.
Until next time.